I understand what you're saying. You're worried that the environment you're in is not going to allow you to reach your true potential. And of course, when I started training in jiu-jitsu, we had a purple belt that was teaching jiu-jitsu, and it was actually a great advantage because everywhere else in Montreal and in Quebec where I was, there wasn't anything higher than a blue belt. So we had a huge, huge advantage training with Angelo Exarchos. Angelo Exarchos was a guy who was training at the Renzo Gracie Academy in New York. So Montreal, 6 hours away from New York, not too far away. He would go down there every single weekend, and then he would come back to Montreal and teach us this great stuff. And of course, we'd go in tournaments, local tournaments, and we clean house. Why? Because we had real jiu-jitsu. We were really learning the Renzo Gracie Academy system, and we only had a purple belt to teach us, but that was more than anybody else had. We had an edge. So I understand what it's like to be in a gym with an edge. It's so important, and I see that's what you're looking for. But times were different then, because back then you didn't have anything on the internet. Really, the internet was really dead when it came to jiu-jitsu. It was still a very unknown sport. I'm talking about early on here, year 2000, and nowadays, if you're looking for info, I mean, not only can you watch my channel, I give you guys away moves for free. By the way, my next video should be a technical video again, so I'll probably be putting up a nice technique in the next video. I've been traveling, so I haven't had time to film. That's why I'm doing another AMA. But today you have so many resources online, so just kind of shop around, get a DVD, etc. I used to buy every DVD under the sun, or a cassette, etc. When I was coming up, even though I was training with a purple belt, I used to buy every DVD. I mean, every dollar I saved, every dollar I made, I saved it for martial arts. So Jason, my instructor, the purple belt I was telling you about, Angelo Exarchos, only trained us for about 2 years, 2 3 years. Then he had to take a hiatus. So I was a blue belt, and he wasn't around very often. What did we do? What did we do? Well, we started traveling to New York. We started saying, look, we got to keep it going. And I had a great disadvantage, right? Because I became the instructor then. I was a blue belt, and I was the head instructor at the TriStar gym. Think about that, I had nobody to tell me what to do. But luckily, George was going to New York. I was going to New York. We were traveling. I was doing seminars. I mean, I did every seminar. Like so many guys that were in UFC giving some. I would drive down wherever it was, whatever it cost. I would save up all my money. I'd spend my summers in Thailand. I used to save $100 a week at least just for my Thailand trip. I mean, I used to live dirt poor because I used to spend all my money on private lessons, training, etc. And I wanted it that badly. I really wanted it that badly. And, today I think I've accumulated a lot of knowledge, and I still travel, and I still do seminars, and I still go and learn. It never ends. So you're thinking that you're putting the power in the hands of your gym. You shouldn't do that. You should put that in your own hands. What can you do to keep growing? And it's going to take some suffering. It's going to take some sacrifice, I know it's very expensive. It's very expensive. But me, I always look at it like this. Whenever I'm spending money on learning, and that money is it's gonna pay me back 1,000 times over. It's gonna pay me back 1,000 times over. Whenever you can improve yourself, instead of buying a car or fancy clothes, invest in your head. Any type of knowledge that goes in your head, it'll pay you back tenfold. And now I have people coming from all over the world to train with me, and that's something I didn't think necessarily was ever going to happen. It wasn't really my goal. I was just extremely, extremely curious. I wanted to learn more and more, and I never could learn enough. And every time I learned something, I just feel great. It was a very intrinsic value. It was a great feeling. And I wanted more of that and more of that. And I loved sharing. Those are the two great passions I had. I loved learning, and I loved teaching. I loved learning, and I loved when I come back from New York, or George would come back from New York, we would show everything to everybody. We didn't keep any secrets. We're very open. And till this day, George still goes down to New York. I'm planning another New York trip this April. So if you guys are in New York, I'll be there. It's one of the greatest places to train is the Renzo Gracie Academy. I love to go there. It's if you've never gotten to grapple in that room, and you love jiu-jitsu, it's a must visit. It's a must visit. And that's what I think you should do. Buy DVDs, invest in learning, travel. I don't care if you have to drive it and you're 16, you might have to take a bus, but do it, go on a weekend trip. And the beauty of going on a weekend trip, I've noticed this before. Sometimes guys, because you got to understand something really important, really important, the way the mind values things. Now, for instance, when I would go to New York, I remember it was $45 a day in parking, and it was $45 American in parking, and the food, and it was $45 a day just to walk in the Henzo Gracie Academy. So I mean, it was everything I had. When I learned, 30, 40 techniques that weekend, those 30, 40 techniques were like, they were like, I don't know, it was like food for me. I had to, I was so grateful for them. I wrote them down. I knew them by heart. Like when I was watching the technique, because I spent so much time and energy getting there, then when they were showing me stuff, I was like, I was like, I don't know how to explain it. I was really, really, really focused. And when I would come back home and I would just teach it to guys for free, it was like, that's nice, whatever. They didn't have that same hunger. They were like, oh yeah, that's cool. Thanks for showing it to me, whatever. And didn't think about it again. Whereas I was like driving back 6 hours and just meditating on what I learned. It was such a big deal. I put so much sacrifice. And I think that a lot of times when guys, let's say they work with a great instructor, they take him for granted. They think everybody else is learning that kind of stuff. People take you for granted and they think that you show them a pearl and they think it's just some regular technique. Whereas when you're starving, when you're hungry for technique and you visit a great master, he gives you a pearl, you actually see that pearl as what it is. You see it as a pearl. And, it's like being in a place where food is abundant, and somebody hands you a steak and you're like, I don't want any. But you put a steak in front of somebody who's hungry or starving, he's gonna enjoy it a lot more. And I think there's an edge there. There's an edge because when you go in the practice room, you're far. There's a mental edge. There's an alertness, and I think that helped me a lot, and it helped George a lot, and it helped a lot of fighters that travel from abroad. We got a dorms at TriStar, and people travel from abroad, and you see that hunger. They've come from abroad. They've left their family. They're here. They're dead serious about learning. They're dead serious. And so when you show them something, they're so grateful. And they have that hunger. So Jason, if you have that hunger, you'll find it. Not only is there plenty of stuff online, and DVDs you could buy, downloads or whatever. So you can learn. I mean, the knowledge is there. Are you going to take the time to study it and to travel? Go find those great clubs. And then when I would come back to TriStar, that's helped elevate the club. George helped elevate the club. Or traveling, or learning, or doing seminars. The club getting stronger and stronger. And build your club. Build your buddies. Build your friends. Take a buddy with you. And see the guys who are really hungry and drill with them extra. Hey, do you want to come in early and drill extra? Do you want to stay in late after class and drill extra? Review these techniques. Build, Jason. Don't expect other people to build you. You got to build. So you're either going to build yourself and build those around you, or you're going to wait for somebody to build you. And I think it's both. If you find somebody who can build you, great. If you can't, you got to build everybody around you. And I find that that's a winning mentality. Don't take your environment as your destiny. Whatever your environment is, there are choices you can make, and you can mold your environment. You can change. You can affect your environment. Not only does your environment affect you, you can affect it back. And I think that's more of an empowering thought. So come up with a plan of how you're going to build yourself. Come down to TriStar. We have a dorm. Come visit. Save your money. You have a summer vacation, spend all your money, travel somewhere, and develop yourself. I doubt you'll regret it. I doubt you'll regret it. Whenever you make a improvement in any way in yourself, there's always an intrinsic value there. So I highly recommend you build yourself. Thank you.